Up next is the App of the Week segment. This is a segment dedicated to app demonstrations. Should you have an app that you would like to demonstrate for our listeners, feel free to send us the recording of such an app demo to contact us at blindandroidusers.com. And now for this week's episode, here's your App of the Week. Let's now turn on to our next segment, and this is the App of the Week segment. In this week's episode, I'm demonstrating an app called Voice Reader. Here's that demonstration. Hi, for episode 182 App of the Week of the Blind Android Users podcast, this is demonstrating Voice Reader. Upon the completion of installing the app, however, the icon on your home screen would simply say Read Aloud. For this demonstration, I'll be utilizing the Galaxy S23 Plus running One UI 6.1 and Android Accessibility 14.x. I am on the home page of the app that is on the Play Store of Voice Reader. And now let's go ahead though and tap on the About. Here a short clear description of the app, and then we'll go ahead and install and get started.
About this app, heading.
I will tap here.
Google Play Store. Voice Reader reads texts aloud. Details.
I will now put down my finger and hear the description of the app.
Listen to any book, website, text document, online article, in your language. Listen anywhere to any web page, ebook, document, text file. Turn your books, news, magazines, scientific articles into audiobooks and audio podcast. Easily create playlist with web pages or any text files and listen to them later, even without internet. Just share any URL web address from your internet browser, paste text from the clipboard or open a file directly in the app. It supports many ebook and document formats like PDF, EPUB, TXT, HTML, RTF, OT, Docs. The reader continues reading when you lock the screen. It reads aloud in the background even if you are using other applications. Works well with Bluetooth headsets. The application does not require internet connection. You can add web pages and download text files to be read later, even when you are offline. The application is compatible with Google Text-to-Speech Engine, so you have easy access to high-quality, natural voices in over 40 languages. Select male or female voice, speech speed, voice tone and intonation. It can help you with learning foreign language pronunciation. Save your eyes. Let the app to read for you a chapter of your favorite novel or scientific book when commuting to work or journals and news digest before sleep.
I like that part that talks about saving your eyes. Absolutely beautiful. Anyway, let's go back now to the previous screen and tap on Install.
Play Store. About this app, heading.
Now I'll scroll back to top, find and tap on that Install.
Install button. Voice Reader reads texts aloud. Installing. Open button in list.
There we go. Now let's go ahead and tap on Open.
Read aloud. In progress. Progress bar 1. Progress bar. Out of list. Media control. Read aloud. Navigate up button.
Upon tapping on the Open, we heard it talk about media controls and all of that. Then we heard Navigate to Top. That's the button there on the top left corner of the phone. And since it is there on the top left corner of the phone, let's begin exploring from here and going right. So from the top left, we come across
Read aloud.
That's the title of the app. And then there are some buttons, I believe here on the top right, we've got
Speech Settings button.
Speech Settings is the first one, going right.
Page button.
We heard Page, going right.
More Options button.
More Options. And that's the last one there on the top right. Now, below though, we have some other buttons. These are media control, like playback controls and all of that. And that's toward the bottom of the phone. Now, just above those media controls, on the right edge of the phone, we have a button that says Add to Playlist. Here's what I'm talking about.
Add to playlist button.
Now, let's look at those button controls. Below this, and starting from the left and going right, we've got the following buttons.
Previous track button. Stop button.
I'm going right.
Pause button. Rewind button. Play button. Fast forward button. Next track button.
And that's the last item, next track. And of course, above that is that Add to Playlist. Below this, though, that is below these media controls, you'll
Web
find the
8A65 ECDDF 26C.
That's an advertisement. So it has ads at the bottom. These ads, however, will not interfere with your reading. However, if you don't want to see these ads, of course, you can always buy the subscription. We'll see the subscription when we go through the settings. Now, let's go back to the top of the phone and look at some of these buttons, or all of these buttons that I mentioned earlier, the 3 buttons found on the right. We'll start with the speech settings.
Speech settings button.
Here is speech settings. Let's tap.
1 2.
Read aloud. Media control. Navigate up button.
Upon tapping on speech settings, we heard 1 2. Basically, one of the voices here. And I do want to mention here, just like the description says, this is only compatible with the Google Speech Services. In other words, the TTS that it utilizes in giving you those TTS output readback is from the Google TTS. In other words, it's utilizing the Google TTS engine. So whether it's the online or the locally stored one, it is using the Google TTS. You're not going to be able to use your own TTS on here if you prefer using your own TTS. Now, let's go ahead and look at what we have in the speech settings. Starting from the top, here's what we got.
Read aloud. Language.
The first thing we heard is a language, and that's like a header. Below that,
Drop-down list. English United States.
we heard United States English, and if that's not the language that you want to use, of course, we tab here to go choose the language. So I'm tapping here, for example,
Pop-up window. English United States in list.
and moving down.
Selected. Filipino Pilipinas. Selected. Jawa Indonesia. Kiswahili Kenya. Malaysia Malaysia. Netherlands België. Netherlands Netherlands.
Tiếng Việt Việt Nam.
Vietnam.
Turkcha Turkey. Bosanski Bosnia and Herzegovina.
Well, and it goes on and on. You know, those are the languages that are available. I'm not going to go through all of these languages. You could check them out if your language is one of these that is not mentioned or haven't shown that is here. You can go through to see if your language is in here. I'll go back.
Read aloud. Drop-down list. English United States out of list.
Moving on.
Drop-down list. NSXTPD local.
Now we're looking at the voices, and by default, we heard that male voice that played earlier. If I tap here,
Pop-up window. NSXTPF local in list.
so we heard the female one and it's local. So these are the voice variants that you could choose from. Moving down.
NSXSFG network requires internet connection.
So that anything that says network means it would require internet connectivity.
NSXSFG local.
And anything that says local means it doesn't need internet connectivity.
NSXIOB local. NSXTPD network. NSXTPC network requires internet connection.
You got the drift. So in other words, if you choose a language, then you can go in here and choose whether you want to use the locally stored Google speech services on your phone, or you would rather use the ones coming from the network. I'll go back.
Read aloud. Drop down list. NSXTPD local. Out of list.
Moving on to the right of this selection, we've got
Language. Button.
something that says language. Let's see what this does.
Read aloud on top. Complete action using on bottom. RH voice. Column 1. In grid. 1 row. 4 columns.
So in
Complete
other
action
words,
using.
this pops up other TTS engines that it sees on my phone, even though they will not work for you if you choose them. So that's what that is. Let's go back.
1 2.
Read aloud. Language. Button. Out of grid.
Moving on down, we
Speech rate.
come across the speech controls like the rates, the pitch, and all of that.
By 1.00. 25%. Config speech rate. Slider. Speech pitch.
And you can change it if you don't want it to be fast, or if you want it faster, or if you want the pitch to be higher or lower.
By 1.00. 25%. Config speech pitch. Slider.
Moving on.
Not checked. Use system speech settings. Check box.
And we have one that says use speech settings. Basically, I think if you check this, then it will be using the variant of the voice that you are using on your phone if you happen to be using the Google TTS. Let's move on down.
Test. Button.
We come across a test right there on the right edge of the phone, just above those media controls. Let's tap and hear what the test sounds like.
1 2 3 4 5.
That's how it would sound like. Now, let's go back.
Read aloud. Speech settings. Button.
Now, moving to the right from speech settings, we come across
Page. Button.
page. I'm going to tap on this to see what it does. Tapping on that does nothing. Now, let's move to the next, and that's the last item on the top right. That would be the more options.
More options. Button.
Let's tap.
Pop-up window. Settings. In list.
The first one is settings. Let's go through them, and then we'll look at the most important ones. So there's settings,
Speech settings.
speech settings, which we already saw.
Skip these words.
Something called skip these words. Next,
Tips and tricks.
next,
Privacy policy.
next,
Share with friends.
next.
Read aloud pro. No ads.
That's the last item there. So this is where we could find the different subscription models. Let's go ahead and tap here and see what we have.
Read aloud. Read aloud pro. Out of list.
And putting my finger down,
Unlock all features and remove ads.
let's look at the options we got.
Not selected. $1.99 per month. Radio button.
So we have a $2 per month.
Selected. $5.49 per year. Radio button.
We got a $5.49 per year.
Special offer.
We have a special offer, and that
46 United States cents per month.
46 cents a month. You can't go wrong on that one. Next,
Not selected. $9.99 per one-time payment. Radio button.
and the last one here is a $10 one-time payment. And so choosing one of these, then you simply tap on continue at the bottom. I'll go back.
Media control. Read aloud. More options. Button.
It took me out of that, and I have to tap on more options again.
Pop-up window. Settings. In list.
Now let's look at some of the items in here that I think are of importance, especially settings. And I think the one that says skip these words. Let's look at settings. I'll tap on settings.
Settings. Navigate up. Button. Out of list.
Tapping on settings, here are the items we encounter.
Settings. Show the text that is being read aloud.
And to the right of that,
Checked. Check box.
in other words, if you don't want it to show the text that is being read, you could toggle this one off. Next.
Reading in a loop.
I don't know what reading in a loop means. If you want something read repeatedly, that's what that entails. And of course, to the right of that, you also have an on-off switch.
Not checked. Check box.
Next.
Keep screen on.
We come across keep the screen on. If for some reason you want to choose to keep your screen on, you have the on-off toggle there to the right.
Not checked. Check box.
And
Dark mode.
that's the last item. And if you want it dark mode, to the right of it, you have the toggle.
Checked. Detected.
And that's the
Icon.
switch that
Check.
says it's
Check
checked by
box.
default. If you don't want that, then you turn it off and you have the light mode. Let's go back.
Media control. Read aloud. More options. Button.
It took me out, and I'm going to go back into more settings.
Pop-up window.
And now
Settings.
let's
In
look
list.
at the one that I was going to look at, and that would be the skip these words.
Skip these words.
Here is skip these words.
Read aloud. Navigate up. Button. Out of list.
Tapping on skip these words, here's what we got.
Don't read these words.
Near the top, we hear do not read these words. And slightly below that on the right edge of the phone, we find a button that says
Don't read these words. Button.
don't read these words button. Let's tap here and see what it does.
Read aloud Pro. Unlock all features and remove ads.
So this one needs some payment. In other words, this feature is behind a paywall. I'm going to go back.
Read aloud. Don't read these words. Button.
There's one last item here that I'm looking at, and that will be
Don't read paragraphs that contain.
do not read paragraphs or don't read paragraphs that contain. And of course, just like above, we see the same little button there on the right edge that says,
Don't read paragraphs that contain. Button.
and if we tap,
Read aloud Pro. Unlock all features and remove ads.
of course, it's behind a paywall.
Read aloud. Don't read paragraphs that contain. Button.
I'm going to go back.
Media control. Read aloud. More options. Button.
I am now back in the menu eye, and now let's go ahead and see if we could add a book or something to read. And in that case, we tap on Add to Playlist.
Add to playlist. Button.
Tapping here. Tapping on Add to Playlist, we didn't hear anything being read, but I'm sure when I put my finger down, we'll hear what the items are in this menu. Here's what we got.
Paste from clipboard. Any text. Website address. RSS feed.
And so we hear you could paste any text, be it a web page address, something that's from your clipboard, and blah, blah, blah. Below that,
Any text file. Book. Document.
so in this case, though, you could import some file from your device, whether it's a book or whatever the case may be, you tap on that to go import. I'm going to tap on the second item, that is to import any file, book, or document.
Books. Show routes. Button.
I'm going to tap on the show routes,
Open from.
and now I'm going to tap on the name of my device
Warren's S23 Plus. In list.
and tap.
Warren's S23 Plus. Show routes. Button. Out of list.
I do have some books in a folder called Books, and now I'll tap on the Books folder and choose one of the books.
Books. Row 2.
Let's tap on Books.
Books. Show routes. Button. Out of grid.
I am now on a page with all of my books and all of that. Now, Google is being so notorious for flagging people for copyright and all of that. I mean, this is just educational. However, I'm not going to take chances of trying to play a book here. Instead, I'm going to look at a book that's from the public domain. And in this case, I'm going to be looking for a book by Tecumseh William Sherman from many years ago in the 1800s. I'll tap on the search and search for that book.
Search, button, window books. Search, edit box, showing English US QWERTY.
I will simply type in the first 3 or 4 letters of the word Sherman.
S, S, H, H, E, E, R, R.
And I'll hit the search at the bottom right.
Search. Share, edit box, search. Keyboard hidden.
All right, we should have some suggestions near the top.
Memoirs of General William T. Sherman. EPUB, 855 kilobytes. Column 2, in grid, 1 row, 2 columns.
And now I'll tap here to open this one or import
Read
this one.
aloud. Navigate up. Button, out of grid.
You can see that it quickly opens up the item, and near the top we still have those buttons that we saw earlier,
Speech settings, button.
and
Page, button.
the last one,
More options,
more
button.
options. Now, if I put my finger down or move finger down,
Memoirs of General William T. Sherman. Complete. Memoirs of General William T. Sherman. EPUB.
now I do want to mention here in passing that this app, however, the one thing that I wish it did have would be that it has support for chapters and all of that. In its current state, however, it does not have that. Instead, it has a slider. So in other words, if you're going to move from one chapter to the next or whatever, you have to use that slider. Here's what I'm talking about.
0%. Progress and seek. Slider.
So if I swipe up, for example, it should start reading.
Memoirs of General William T. Sherman. Complete Memoirs of General Sherman. Memoirs of General Sherman. Complete Memoirs of General Sherman. The Project Gutenberg ebook of the Memoirs of General W. T. Sherman. Complete, by William T. Sherman. This ebook is for the use of anyone.
I just tapped with 2 fingers to stop the reading. Now you can either do that or you could tap on the play at the bottom there, found within the media controls. Now, besides that, as I indicated earlier, it will show the text as well. So if I put my finger down,
Memoirs of General William T. Sherman. Complete Memoirs of General Sherman. Memoirs of General Sherman. Complete Memoirs of...
now that's my screen reader reading that. If I could change my granularity, for example,
Paragraphs. Lines. Words.
let's read word by word.
Memoirs. Of. General.
So in other words, it shows the text. So if you want to use your screen reader instead, maybe you have a braille display, something I haven't tried it with, I'm sure you'd be able to see that as well. And now, before I bring this to a close, let's look at the page button that is found in between the speech settings and the more options on the top right.
Page. Button.
I tap on that.
Read aloud. Navigate up. Button.
Tapping on that, we still have those buttons, speech settings, page, and then on the top right,
More options. Button.
we have more options still there, but the items in these more options is different. Here's what I'm talking about.
Pop-up window. Bookmarks. In list.
So you can bookmark.
Skip these words.
We also come across that skip these words.
Remove.
And remove. Now, tapping on remove would remove the book you're reading. That is, remove it from your library. I'm going to go back.
Read aloud. Page. Button. Out of list.
And with that, I come to the conclusion of this short demonstration of the voice reader. I hope that you find it useful, and if so, give it a try. That has been the demonstration of the voice reader, which of course upon installation, the icon as I indicated in that demonstration now becomes read aloud. Hey, did any of you guys try read aloud? John, did you try it?
Yeah, I did try it. it works nice, but there's something I need to point out. It suffers from the same bug, if you will, that reading mode does. And it's more of a bug with Google TTS. But if you are using it with Google TTS or speech recognition by Google, whatever they're calling it now, speech services and recognition, I don't know. If you're using Google TTS as your main TTS engine, then it will interrupt this while it's playing. So if you hit the play button on it and then you do anything with TalkBack, it will interrupt it and then it will basically stop playback, and you'll have to hit the play button or do the play gesture again to get it going.
So in other words, it's behaving like a lot of the reading apps that use the Google TTS are doing. I'm looking at things like even the Dolphin Easy Reader will do the same thing if you have TalkBack running, or some other reading apps will do the same thing. So I've been using it though. I think maybe for me,
you're using the multi.
I'm using the multi-language, whatever that thing.
Yeah.
Yes. So if you use something like that, it doesn't affect it, and it just reads so nice. So that's something to pay attention to. If you're going to use it, for example, maybe use something else for your main TTS. Say, hey, you have an a cappella or something else. And then once the book commences, or do what I do, I kind of, like with my easy reader, I just, once I hit the play, then I use the gesture to mute speech. So it's not affected. And I think that may mitigate that as well.
Another workaround usually is, now I like audio ducking turned off, but usually if you have audio ducking turned on, it will continue playback. So like, for example, with reading mode, if you have audio ducking on, then it will stop playback. But as soon as TalkBack is done saying whatever it was saying, then it will automatically resume playback. But the reason it doesn't work here is because this specific app that you demonstrated does not support audio ducking. So because of that, this audio ducking workaround won't work in this case. So yeah, like you mentioned, either use a different TTS engine, or if you really like Google TTS, use something like Auto TTS or Multilingual TTS to, still use Google TTS, but not have it technically set as your default speech engine.
Yeah, and the thing about that multi-TTS, multilingual TTS, it sounds better than the Google TTS that comes on by default anyway on the phone. So that's something to keep it.
If you go above 200, it's going to sound the same. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but that's something to keep in mind if you're going to be using this app. But the only gripe I have with the app is the fact that it doesn't have, like, say, I just want to go to like a table of contents and just choose the chapter that I want. Instead, it uses that slider, and it kind of makes it a little bit difficult then to really jump to the chapter that you want, and you have to keep scrolling. I mean, using that slider to get to a chapter, but then you're not going to know if I've jumped to chapter 10 or chapter 11 because it just goes by the percentages. And I wish the developer could implement support for table of contents. But the other thing I like about it is the fact that it opens up, PDF files really quick compared it to other apps in this class, and it seems to open up PDFs faster than other apps that I have that I want to use for PDF, and some of them don't even open up PDF. So I'm glad we have another choice. And for 46 cents, if you want the special, whatever, 46 cents a month, I think that's a good one. I just went ahead, though, yesterday, and I got the $10 one-time payment.
I've also noticed that for your demonstrations lately, you've been using your Samsung phone a little more often. This one was using your S23 Plus. I think maybe you're finally coming around. It's a much better phone to use, so you use it for your demonstrations.
Oh, brother, we've got to rub it in. Yeah, maybe I'm a secret admirer of Samsung. I'm kind of hiding in the closet about Samsung. I want to join the club. Nah, I'll use it for my demonstrations though, because I think that a lot of people use the Samsung phones. So it kind of makes sense to use it, but I don't know why I use it mainly for my demonstration purposes. Maybe next time I'll do a Pixel phone instead, John. Maybe that's what I should do.
The demonstration is going to fail very bad because Pixel phone does not have anything inside.
Pixel phone doesn't have anything inside. It has Gemini. You forgot about Gemini, Austin?
It is only plastic, nothing
Oh,
inside.
brother. Oh, brother. All right. Go ahead and slap my Pixel on the head. It's fine.